Game Freak first showed Town during the fall 2018 Nintendo Direct. At the time of its reveal, it looked like it could be an interesting RPG. However, when it was shown off again this fall, it seemed a little bland and didn't look like the game it might be when it was first unveiled. Nevertheless, it was still interesting to see what Game Freak could do with an RPG that wasn't Pokemon, so it was time to find out what Little Town Hero is all about. Axe dreams of one day adventuring outside of his village to discover what lies beyond. The only way out, though, is through a castle that has been built to protect the villagers from monsters that lurk outside its gates. After meeting a soldier from the castle, Axe asks them if he could be trained in combat so that he can one day work there too. During the training session, Axe accidentally injures the soldier, and shortly after, a monster appears in town with no warning. Left with no other choice, Axe fights the monster and kills it. Left with the mystery of how a monster got into town undetected, his adventure begins at home. Even though Little Town Hero calls itself an RPG, it's really more of a card game. You have ideas that can be used in battle, each one having a POW value associated with it, dictating how many of them you can use in any given turn. Each idea has an attack and defense value that you can use to fight the enemy's ideas. If an idea loses all of its defense points, it breaks and will be replaced by another from your headspace, aka your deck. There are ideas for attacking, defense, and support, and you'll need to use them all effectively in order to win. In addition, after every turn, you move across a board with some tiles having certain effects, like having a town member assist you or using a certain idea to blow up a barrel. There are no optional fights besides training battles, so you'll only have one way forward. With each story battle, you can use Eureka points, which will upgrade your ideas, either increasing their attack and defense values or giving them an additional effect. While this battle system is pretty cool, its strengths are in how strategic it can be, though it also suffers from the same problems that other card games tend to have. Sometimes you have the ideas you need right at the start of the battle, and it's smooth sailing for the rest of the fight. Other times, you might get dealt a bad hand, and you have to claw your way back from an early deficit. Falling behind in Little Town Hero's fights can be costly. If you're not breaking an enemy's ideas, they can once again be used next turn, which can put you behind very quickly. Sometimes you'll go through a fight for a half hour at a disadvantage, only to realize it's almost futile to keep going. Boss fights at the end of each chapter can be marathons. A couple of times battles lasted well over 45 minutes, as each move was well thought out, not wanting to redo the entire fight for one mistake made. You also only have so many cards in your headspace, and the only way to get new cards is either to take damage or consistently break all of your opponent's cards each turn. So the goal is usually to try and win as quickly and efficiently as possible, which will sometimes be impossible with the hand you're dealt. When you're not fighting bosses, you may have to battle some sheep or your rival Mattock. It's easy to lose count of the number of times you have to fight him in every chapter. At one point, he had to be defeated 3 times pretty much back to back to back. You'll fight him on your way to somewhere to complete an objective, you'll fight him on the way back, and another fight later on in the town. These kinds of battles just feel like padding that really adds nothing to the game. Sure, they're mostly for testing out strategies for the main boss encounters, but battles in general are slow and tedious, and having them limited to the end of each chapter fights probably would have been best. It sounds contradictory to like the battle mechanics yet still find the experience tedious, but that's the way this system feels. The story of Little Town Hero takes a while to ramp up, but it's not a bad story once you start learning about the mystery of why monsters are appearing in town. Unfortunately, a story needs to have good characters in order to care about what's actually going on, and Little Town Hero has mediocre characters. Having a cast of troublemakers isn't a good starting point, especially if they don't really grow, but at least Axe shows character development. Game Freak has mentioned in the past that they were struggling trying to develop for the Switch, and Little Town Hero shows it. This doesn't look like a particularly demanding game at all, yet it will chug randomly, dropping to what looks like 5 to 10 frames per second, even when just walking through town. Battles can also slow down, especially when Axe and a monster collide for an attack, or when Axe goes for a direct attack on a monster. At a couple of points in the game, the audio cut out altogether. It's pretty puzzling that this game could have gone through QA with such low level of quality. The boss designs, however, are a highlight of the art of Little Town Hero, coming in a nice variety of cool looking beasts. The sound department is the best part of the game, but it doesn't blow you away. There isn't much music variety as there aren't many areas to explore, but at least the one town theme will change depending on which part of the town you're in. The only thing to look forward to is the boss battle music. Toby Fox does a good job with the soundtrack, but it's no Undertale. There's no voice acting in the game unless you count the beeps and bloops that come out of the characters' mouths whenever they speak. Little Town Hero is far from a heroic quest from Game Freak. It's an interesting concept for a game, and it does feel unique, but with the monotonous pacing and the poor casted characters, it's hard to stay in the world for long. While it's nice to see Game Freak expand their RPG muscles outside of Pokemon, this one fails to be more than a disappointingly mediocre adventure.
Did you give Little Town Hero a chance? What are your thoughts on this latest IP from Game Freak? Let us know in the comment section below. Help us out by liking and subscribing, and of course hitting the notification bell so you can stay up to date. You can find RPGFan on all social media as well as on Twitch, and of course for all your news, reviews, and more, go on over to rpgfan.com.